Hello, everyone. My name is Angela Owens with Phenomenal Business Solutions, and I provide bookkeeping services and business advisory services to small businesses. And one of the things that I do in my business is help create a custom plan for companies so that they can incorporate some of their accounting throughout the day so that they're able to keep everything running smoothly. So today's topic is going to be effective strategies for regulatory compliance management in your car dealership. So the first thing is the title registration. So every car dealership has to do this. Also, before I begin, I want to let you guys know that today I'll mainly be talking in regards to Texas laws. So different states might have different requirements, but everything today that I share, it might vary depending on what state you live in. So with the title registration, you have 30 days to transfer the title to the customer. Unless they have financing, you have 45 days. But a really good practice for staying on top of this is to make it a weekly task. So pick one day of the week where you process all the titles that went out the week before, as long as you have the titles in the office. But also, I suggest that you use technology for efficiency. So that's like with all the paperwork that you have to fill out. Sometimes people sign in the wrong place, and sometimes the information is not correct. So most people are going to be using dealer management system, so that helps with one part of it. But with the signatures, you might want to think about using e-signature, DocuSign, Adobe Sign, one of those programs. And also, there's this tablet out there called Remarkable. It may be some other ones that are similar to it, but you can upload PDFs to that, and people can hand sign on the documents, and that way you can make sure that everybody is signing where they need to. If there's an error, you can erase it and get it back going so that you're not wasting a whole lot of paper. So that would be really good to help with efficiency. Then you print out the documents. And some places are now doing titles online. I know Texas is supposed to be moving to a lot of this stuff happening online. So if you get used to the technology already, then you'll be ready for when everything is online, and you won't have to do a lot of scanning after people are signing and stuff like that. Also, you might want to make sure you have the title before you make the sale. So sometimes if you go to the auction, they may not have a title, and so you have to wait for that. The only leverage that you have with the auction is to have the car. So if 30 days or so pass and they still haven't given you your title, if you sold the car, you have to still wait for them to try to produce the title. Whereas if you had the car, you could just give it back and get your money back and keep it moving. But if you sell the car, then now you have to go get a bonded title. You're way past your 30 days of transferring the title. You have to pay all these extra fees and, things like that. I also suggest getting a separate bank account. And you can use this to, every time you make a sale, you move the fees and everything to a separate bank account so that when you get ready to process the titles at the county, then you could just use that account. And it would also help if you have a runner that you are allowing you to use the card for your business, then you can kind of limit the amount of money that they will be able to swipe the card for when they get ready to pay for the registration and things like that. Also, in Texas, you have to pay a monthly vehicle inventory tax. And they are due on the 10th of the month. And I suggest that you do it by the 5th so that you can kind of have room for, if something happens, you still have a buffer, to where you can still completed by the 10th of the month. And to keep up with this, I suggest that you review your DMS weekly. So sometimes in your dealer service, you pull up a deal, you process the deal, get the money, do the paperwork and everything, but there's another step that you have to go back and change the status of that deal to sold, or whatever the language that is used in your service. But you don't want to leave it pending, because if it shows pending, it's probably not going to show up on your tax report that you run in your service. And also, you want to make sure that the cars that are sold wholesale are documented properly in the DMS as well. So just make sure that all the cars are the proper status, so that when you run your monthly report in the program, it's actually accurate. And don't just take the program's word for it. Make sure you double check and review it yourself to make sure that it's saying exactly what's true. For deferred sales tax, so if you offer buy here, pay here service at your dealership, then you may defer the taxes, and while you're receiving payments, you're only paying the sales tax on the part of that you have collected during the payments. And there's a 60-day rule in order to take advantage of this. So if you do not transfer the title and go down to the tax office within 60 days, then you do not get to defer the taxes. You have to pay the full amount that is due as if they had paid you for the whole car. And this is due monthly if you've collected more than $500 in sales tax, or quarterly if you collected less than $500 a month. And it's due on the following 20th of the following month. And I suggest that you reconcile your buy here, pay here accounts monthly, regardless of when the sales tax is due, so that you can stay on top of that. And also with your collections, I mean, it's you don't want to get the collections to go too far out. You want to make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. So try to set a specific day each month to reconcile your buy here, pay here account. Paperwork, paperwork, paperwork. So we all know that the car dealership is probably one of the most heavily regulated industries out there. And it's just so much papers that you have to use to, cover yourself, so that if anything happens, you want to make sure that you have all the documentation to prove that you did everything that you were supposed to do. So there's some documents that are optional and some documents that are required. In my opinion, I suggest that you also use some of the optional paperwork as well. And take the time to review when you're having your customers sign stuff, and when people are bringing documents in, make sure everything is right the first time. Before they walk out of there, take your time to review everything. I know car sales sometimes can be a very stressful event, sometimes for the customer, sometimes for the business owner, but we want to make sure that everything is right the first time, so that you don't have to keep asking them to come in and, oh yeah, I forgot you need to sign this. Oh, I forgot you need to sign that. So just make sure it's right the first time. Just, even if you want to have a second person to review everything before the final thing. So make it right the first time. And check your state requirements monthly. Stuff is changing all the time. I was on a dealership training in July, on July 11th, and during that training, they were not able to include a particular slide because a new law went into effect exactly that day. And that's where they was raising the documentary fee. So these laws are changing, and you're not going to know unless you look for it. Unless you're signed up for their, announcements and things like that. But I really suggest that you, check monthly, check their site, see if anything's changed. or stuff like that. I also suggest that you scan and file everything right away. Don't wait. Don't let it pile up. Don't move it to the side and say, I'll get to it later. Right away. After they leave, file it before you move on to the next customer. So just get organized and keep it together. The more that you're able to do as you work, the less you'll have to do later when you're ready to go home. And here's a little bit of my background. I started my business in 2007, but I really enjoy the industry that I work in with accounting and bookkeeping. It all started when I was about 8 years old. My grandmother had a candy store. Her house, she sold candy out of her house. And during that time, she had me to manage the money coming in. I would count the money at the end of the day and help her to maintain the inventory. I would let her know what items she needed to restock up on, what items the customers were asking for, and things like that. So that was my very first beginning with any type of bookkeeping, but I didn't know it was called bookkeeping at the time, of course. Then later, we moved to Texas, and my father started a church. And when he did the candy store at the back of the church, he had me to manage the money and the inventory. So that was my next experience with this type of work. And then once I turned 16 and got my first job, my father taught me how to do my own taxes, and he told my siblings to do theirs, but they ended up having me to do their taxes. So that was my first experience with doing taxes. And I started helping different family members as well with their taxes. And eventually I was like, I really could make some money with this. So I went to Richmond College for a little while. They had a accounting certification program, and I went through that and got a few accounting certificates so that I can get started. And when I started my business in 2007, I was still at Richmond College. And then I transferred over to UTD. And while I was at UTD, business started ramping up, and I had to make a decision to either stay in school or to go ahead and focus more on my business. And I decided to focus more on my business. But I do have one more year left at UTD, so I'm still thinking about whether I will go back or not. And currently, my business is now Phenomenal Business Solutions LLC. I just switched the name this year as I'm doing a revamp and things like that. So I'll tell you guys a little more about me next week, but this is where my beginning started. So if you learned something today, I would love to sit down with you and see how I will be able to help you get a strategy for improving your profit and cash flow. And this appointment will be where I do gather information from you, and then I will analyze your data, and then we'll have another meeting for me to share with you what I found and areas that you can improve, and give you strategies so that we can see if this is a fit for you. Regardless if you decide to work with me or not, you will definitely have a plan to move forward with your success. So make sure you go to angelajones.com/calendar and book your appointment with me today. Make sure you follow me on Facebook. I have 2 pages. You can follow both of them, and you can feel free to call or email me as well. So I really look forward to connecting with you, and you have a wonderful Tuesday.